It's always good to see you, man.
Excellent to see you, sir. All right, so sound is good. I'm going to put my ear pods away so that doesn't interfere and jump in or anything like that.
But no, you were asking about the dog. The dog is actually, I think she's loving having me home. 4 years of getting her trained for me to go into the studio every morning has gone out the window. She is now fully accepted the fact that she probably thinks I've been fired or something. I'm just staying at home with her.
I think it's incredibly human that, like, you were like, how's your family? How's your dog? It never occurs to me to ask that of people. Like, which is like, I think I've lost touch with my humanity. And I can't even blame it on quarantine. I think I've lost touch with my humanity. It doesn't occur to me to be like, hey man, how are the people in your life and stuff like that.
Well, I normally don't start off interviews that way, but just with everything that's going on, I feel like that's sort of like kind of I would hate that if you had something horrible going on in your life right now, and I'm like, oh, so let's talk about Mallrats. So I kind of just had to.
It would be amazing if something horrible was going on in my life and I was still like, I'm going to do this interview though.
I'm still going to do it. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. I just want to start out talking about the fact that when this whole thing happened, people were talking about the fact that, they were like, oh, well, Shakespeare wrote King Lear in the middle of a quarantine. So you have no excuse not to come out with some masterpiece when this whole thing's over. So I'm sort of curious, if Shakespeare wrote King Lear in the middle of a plague, in the middle of a quarantine, what is Kevin Smith's King Lear going to be when we get out of this?
I just want to point out that, like, everyone's always like, he's no director, but did you see the great lengths I went to while you were speaking to up my camera, change the angle, and make sure I hit my light? You want to be a filmmaker or a director at heart. If you do it for 26 years, you start picking stuff up and
you're like, wait a second.
This could work. I took the time down to first 2 weeks, like everybody, I was just like, let's just eat and watch things. And then I watched my waistline expand. So I said, I have to exercise more discipline and I have to exercise, period. So I started working on, or I'd already started back in December, working on a script called Twilight of the Mallrats sequel. So during the time that I had down, I was like, you know what, I'm going to dive back into it because I've been kind of hovering around page 50 or 60 for a couple months. I wouldn't go forward. I would go back, rewrite, and go back and rewrite, but I would never move forward because from that page forward, it would have been brand new, sit down, shut out the world material. So suddenly we were in an environment where I could do that. And I got lost in my mall back, my mall from the 90s that in the movie we try to drag into the present. And, believe me, the movie does nothing but comment on the fact that, like, who goes to the mall anymore? Had to bring in, the quarantine and COVID-19 as well, because clearly that's not like, oh, that's something that happened, nobody will remember. It is going to impact us forever. It's definitely going to impact the shopping experience, and malls were already teetering toward extinction anyway. So suddenly that winds up weaving itself into the plot, something I hadn't even thought about including in the script 4 months ago or 6 months ago and stuff. Suddenly real life intrudes on your ability to tell the story, and so you have to incorporate real life into the story. So I've always done that, like, I'm not original. I'm no George Lucas. Like, Clerks exists because I worked at a convenience store. Mallrats exists because I worked at the mall. So forth. Dogma exists because I was Catholic. So the fact that this now exists, like, is stuff that you bring it in to the movie because you can already see life being impacted in major ways. But I steal from real life all the time. And Clerks 3 is Randall has a heart attack in the first scene, massive heart attack. And when I told Jeff Anderson that, he's like, where'd you get that idea? I was like, it just came to me. So yeah, I spent this quarantine working on Moose Jaws. We launched that Kevin Smith Club, which has allowed me to shoot like a lot of video. It's like our old podcast. We were building it for like a year and then we had to launch it in the middle of this and whatnot. But it's been fun for me because I get to kind of stroll through my past and pulling open old diaries and reading from for a show I do called Wake and Bake, 3 mornings and stuff like that. I've gotten a podcast with my wife again. We used to do a show called Plus One years ago, and then she stopped doing it. So recently, because of this, I was able to convince her to hit the chair. So that's been nice. Finished Twilight of the Mallrats and then dove into a rewrite of Moose Jaws, which is a movie which is just Jaws, but with like a moose instead of a shark.
Yes.
So, right now I'm in the middle of that and I'm stripping Jay and Silent Bob out of it, because the first draft I'd ever done, Jay and Silent Bob were riddled throughout it. And now I want that movie to be by itself. And Jay and Silent Bob are going to come back in Mallrats and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of DJ and bobbing Moose Jaws.
I love the idea that Moose Jaws is going to be your King Lear coming out of this. I think that is amazing.
Lips to God's ears, Jake. If only it will be treated that seriously or remembered that well. But true, man. Everyone always puts the pressure on of like, well, you know what Shakespeare did in a quarantine. I'm like, well, regardless of what he did in a quarantine, what he did with his entire life and career is kind of substantial. And I don't hold myself to that standard already. Why would I be like, well, when everyone was sick, he was even better. I can't reach him when he was in good times. Like his lowest work is beyond my reach. So yeah, that's no role model for me.
Well, you know, it's funny being an entertainment reporter for a morning show. I love my job. I think I get to cover the best stuff. I get to talk to people like you, and you know, I get to entertain with my cinematic idols. But naturally, entertainment, it's the most expendable part of any newscast. A lot of times, entertainment is sort of looked at as like, oh, it's the fun fluff stuff. But I feel like now that everyone is stuck at home, people's perspective of entertainment and the arts has changed. It's almost become a necessity. I've had my phone has blown up more in the last 6 weeks of people looking for movie and Netflix suggestions than, in the 15 years that I've been doing this. I'm sort of curious, do you think coming out of this that people's perspective of the arts, of movies, of TV is going to be maybe a little bit more appreciated?
I don't know if it'll be appreciated, but here, I remember having a conversation. This is going to sound so name droppy, but here we're making Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and it's the day that Matt Damon is shooting. Mm-hmm. And Matt Damon starts busting this information about universal basic income on me, mm-hmm. which I've heard from Joe Rogan when I was on Joe Rogan's podcast, the idea that everybody should start with a base income because the world is expensive and whatnot. So Matt, I was like, well, extrapolate it forward. And he's like, I just listened to an economist speak about it. And he said, what happens is eventually the workforce gets replaced with automation. And we're seeing it happen already. He's gone, in the age of the self-driving car and the self-driving truck, people lose jobs. This is in advance of this quarantine. Nobody saw this coming, but he's explaining the situation that we're kind of in. So he's like, lots of job loss means that people are home. And when people are home, what do? They look to entertainment. So he's like, he was trying to say that our business would continue even in a world where, 50% of the workforce was out of work because of robots. He was talking about this fictional possible future. In that world, we would still have jobs because somebody has to entertain people. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I always thought of my job as very expendable, and it is. I'm no doctor. I'm not on the front lines. I ain't doing anything important. But what we've seen in quarantine is people aren't I reached out to some loved ones that I haven't spoken to in a while or something like that. They're like, oh my God, I binged this. I've watched everything on Netflix. I've watched all of Hulu. I'm now completely up to date with HBO from the time they began. And you realize, oh my God, I guess there was some point to what he was saying, entertainment, even when things collapse, has this weird place because it's the ultimate distraction. And I've always known that, movies are just look at here, and then you won't think about how one day you're going to die. Look at this movie. But that's all it is distraction. And in time of trauma, crisis, sometimes, or in the case of us being locked down, you have no choice. You want to be entertained, man. And I would hope that in this, we're also seeing as many people are watching and consuming media. What I love about TikTok is everybody has become their own entertainment, and they're entertaining each other. It's no longer just Hollywood and TV, give me what you got. Now the focus is turning to that's my neighbor, and look at how good they are at lip syncing Grease, and it's, you're in, you're out. There's no deep commitment. You could fall down a well. We all need entertainment. So whether you're getting it well produced and polished, or whether you're getting it in its most raw, innate form, made by outsider artists, AKA normal people, we're all looking for distraction. So You know, in a world where I was a kid, they were like, go to college and get a college education because that's the only way you'll succeed in the workforce and stuff. You know, if I was raising a kid, my kid's going to be 21 soon, so she's kind of raised. But if I was raising a kid, I would be like, figure out how to distract people, how to entertain people, because you'll never starve, which is weird because we think of the starving actor and the starving writer and stuff. But in the age of content creation where anybody can pick up their phone and be a valid entertainer. I mean, honestly, there are TikToks, there are Instagram posts where there are more eyes on them than have ever been collectively on every movie that I've ever made combined. That's staggering to think about. But what does it stem from? The need for distraction. Somebody just wants to look away from the real world for a minute and they're like, holy crap, look at this person dance. That's amazing. And some people need it longer. So they're like, oh my Lord. Like I just binged Solar Opposites, the new Justin Roiland show on Hulu.
Yeah.
What a bliss that was for me because number one, it's entertaining as heck. Number two, as a creator, it makes me want to up my game because I'm like, oh, that's where the bar is? Oh my God, I'm still in the 90s. And so it makes you sharpen your own stuff. But yeah, there's something to be said for distraction, being in the distraction business. My whole life, I always thought it was frivolous and stupid, and let's be honest, it is. But people need distraction, as we've seen. Like when everything's shut down, people need to eat, and they need toilet paper. You know,
a weird amount of toilet paper.
Bizarre, like, you know, end of the world amount of toilet paper. I'm sure a lot of people, I've been lucky enough to be quarantined with my wife and my kid and my in-laws and stuff. So I've got people around me. Some people are like going at it by themselves, man. Like in a small,
in the dog, man.
They see that's it. And some people don't even have the dog.
Yeah.
So I understand the like need to, I'm going to focus over here and at least watching entertainment or watching TikToks or even better, creating entertainment, creating TikToks. That's a fun use of your time, a good use of your time. Some people fall down the rabbit hole of, you know, bitterness and like, I'm going to hate on something and whatnot, you know, because the whole world has gone to heck, it seems like. So why manage or bother with civility or something? But I'll tell you, there's two paths in this world. It's that simple. There's creation and there's destruction. And so the destructive path is like very crowded because anybody could do that. Anybody could tear stuff down. Go for the creation path, man, because at the end of the day, number one, it distracts you. It's the ultimate distraction. Never mind watching a TV program. Create a TV program. You want to talk about being distracted? Oh my God, once you start God making and building your own art, your own world, you won't want to interact with anybody else's stuff because it's a blast. So create in this time. That's what I've been telling people, like while you're home, this is an unprecedented chance for you. Like, you know, we all dream about, oh, if I could just have a month off. We've just been given a lot of time off. So now's the time to try those things you always thought about trying. And that's what I love about TikTok. It democratizes entertainment the way that YouTube does, the way that like anybody could pick up their laptop or their phone and put on a show. Like it's wonderful to watch like incredibly well-crafted entertainment that money's been spent on. But like sometimes we just like to see ourselves, or more importantly, see what another human being who is no different than us can do. And then you're like, oh my Lord, you know, it's entertaining. It's distracting to say the least. So I'm happy to be in the distraction business because even with the world shut down, I still have a job technically. I don't get paid for it. Like as Jason Muse's wife, Jordan, runs our company. She pointed out, I said, did you see the unemployment numbers? They're so high. And she goes, you're part of that. She's going, you don't have a job either. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. I got to do something. I always think of myself as not really having a job because I just like I'm going to make a movie. I'm going to work on the Masters of the Universe or something. But she's technically right. I'm as unemployed as everybody else. So I don't know where the next meal's going to come from, but I'll figure it out.
Moose jaws, baby. I'm telling you. I've been waiting on that. It makes me so happy. It's
for years, whenever I would say it to people, I was like, I'm going to make moose jaws. It's like, what's that? I'm like, it's jaws, but with a moose instead of a shark. I swear to you, I don't care who it is, smartest person to the dumbest. This is their reaction. Like that. And that little chuckle, that was enough for me. You know, some people would be like, that's a tweet at best, but I'm like, oh no, that's a feature film.
I'm excited for it, dude. One of the reasons I've always loved you one, the fact that I can tweet you and ask for an interview, and the fact that you're like, yeah, cool, let's do it. That is a great example of the fact of your relationship with your fans. You do something really cool with a hero initiative, which I think is awesome, which is basically for really not that much money, but if people throw out a couple of bucks, they get basically this. They get a little bit of like one-on-one private time with you. What does it feel like to be the kind of person that can just use your time for charity and then just say like, hey, like I want to raise money. What can I do? I'm just going to talk to people. That's got to be a cool feeling.
It's really nice. It should never, of course, exclude or come at the exclusion of opening up one's own wallet, right? Like that helps too. But like, it's really nice to have this sidearm superpower where people are like, I'll pay you for your time. Use your mouth on me. Here's some money, you know? And so you can put that to good use. The Hero Initiative, which I'll be doing in like an hour. Jim McLaughlin's a friend of mine, and he set it up years ago. Looks after old timers or anybody in the comic book community, other creators, writers, artists who have fallen on hard economic times, because in the comic book community, in the comic book business, historically, it hasn't been this big cash cow where everybody's getting rich and stuff. In fact, a lot of people put in amazing work, created characters like Superman, Siegel, and Schuster, and lived penniless for most of their lives and stuff. So Hero Initiative kind of looks out for you. If you've ever worked in the field and like, oh my God, I can't pay my bills, Hero Initiative comes along, makes sure your stuff's paid for as a thank you to all the people that created the books, the stories that we enjoyed as kids. A lot of us look at that stuff as the building blocks to what got us to where we are. You know, I can attribute a lot of my success in life to comic books. So the idea of helping Hero Initiative means you're helping out the people that told you the stories when you were a kid that made you grow up to be the person you wanted to be professionally and on, you know, the moral level. Comic books are a wonderful way to instill a moral barometer in a kid. They're all parables, you know, they're all little Bible stories. Be good, don't be bad, you know, and good guys win and bad people are punished and stuff like that. So the Hero Initiative thing was, Jim McLaughlin said, you give me an hour one day, we could set up a Zoom for like 6 people where they can just do a private Q&A and stuff like that. And we kept the price nice and reasonable and raised a couple grand that we throw into Hero Initiative. So it always feels nice to be able to, like, my time means something like that will help. Okay, because that's easy as hell. And let's be honest, as you've seen, like, I love the sound of my own voice. So like 6 people sitting around going, let me say one thing to you, and then you could talk for the whole time. That's easy for me, very easy and fun to do. And then when it's done, like, you know, A, they've raised some loot and stuff, but B, I'm not going to walk around for the rest of the day being like, I suck and nobody likes me. I got a spring in my step. You know, ask my wife, I'll be insufferable for the rest of the day. 6 people paid to talk to me, and you don't want to talk to me? Fine, I'll go get paid to be spoken to.
The fact that you've opened yourself up to fans, it just made me wonder, have you ever had a really bad, weird fan interaction?
No, not really. I mean, every once in a while, like, all right, here's how first world I am. The weirdest or worst fan interaction that sprang to my mind when you said that. This is so first world. I was at the Moscone Center in San Francisco, I guess for WonderCon. And I, you know, had gone for lunch, and I'm coming back down the escalator, and a few people see me coming down the escalator, and they come over. Can we take a picture? Can we grab an autograph? And so small crowd, only about 10 people, but, you know, noticeable, because if you're coming off the escalator, you have to go around us. And so one guy, you know, kind of gets into the mix, gets right up to me, hands me a Spider-Man pad that I guess they gave out at the convention or something. And so I signed it, and I gave it just like I'd signed. Everybody else was handing me stuff. And then the guy, as soon as I handed it back to him, he goes, I don't even know why I asked for this. I don't even like you, and I don't even want this. And I was like, Jesus. Why did we do that? We wasted both of our times. That was incredible. So that being said, like, that's, to me, that's like bad.
Considering how many fan interactions you had, that's actually pretty, in the grand, statistically speaking, that's pretty good.
Amazing. I mean, honestly, you can't stalk a person who's stalking you first. You know, I'm always the guy standing behind you in the darkness going, Clerks. So like, I'm always lurking. I've never had a bad fan experience because I'm always like incredibly appreciative, and I still can't believe it that I have a fan, let alone like many. And I've met the fan base. We just got off the Jay and Silent Bob Reboot Roadshow tour right before the quarantine happened, and that was 67 cities, 3 countries. And I
including
saw
Chicago, right here in Chicago, Music Box.
Chicago, which was honestly one of the greatest screening experiences I've had in my life. We opened in New Jersey, the opening night of the tour, and we got a lot of love in New Jersey. We went to Chicago the next night and had 2 shows at the Music Box, and they blew New Jersey out of the water. So much so that I was like, why am I always vouching for my home state? They don't even recognize the prophet in their own midst. The Chicago screenings, like I still have them on my phone because the first screening was through the roof. And in the back of that theater, there's like this level where you can sit in a chair. It's not like technically a balcony. I think they store like Christmas decorations and stuff up there. But still, I was able to sit up there and I rolled my phone, like just took my phone and shot like the crowd watching the movie. So the crowd real tiny in the foreground, and all of Chicago enjoyed it in the background for the screen, foreground for the Chicago people watching the flick. And through the whole tour, I would chop those out and send it to people who are in the movie.
You tweeted one the other day of people reacting to Matt. Was that from Chicago?
That was from Chicago.
Really?
I had tweeted one a while ago of Ben. Like when Ben comes up on screen, the place went nuts. It was thunderous, man. And I texted him. I tweeted that. I gave him that thing, the clip, and I texted him. I was like, "This is how they feel about you in Chicago, Batman." And he wrote back 2-word response. He wrote, "I know." But that was the high bar that for the rest of the tour we were always like, well, in Chicago, you know what I'm saying? Like that established a great tone. They were such a wonderful audience. So yeah, I see the fan base like all the time. Like 65,000 people bought tickets, and I was there for every screening every night. So I'm slobberingly grateful to the fan base because they have allowed me not to go back to the convenience store unless I want to make a movie at the convenience store. But I never had to go back to work from the moment I went to Sundance forward. You know, it was only if I ever chose to go back there to work. And actually right after Sundance, that was part of like the Sundance, every Sundance story that was written about me in 1994 was like, this kid made a movie in his job, and on Monday, he's going back to that job, because I didn't know that anything would work out for me. So I did go back to Quick Stop. And for the first month, every member of the press that wanted to speak to me like came down to Quick Stop. Everyone thought that was a hoot. They're like, he's going to be at that actual store? And they thought it was like a press setup, but I was literally still working at Quick Stop. I didn't give up my Quick Stop job officially until August of 94. So January of 94, Sundance happens and we sell Clerks. And I did not officially give notice at Quick Stop to be like, I obviously can't come in anymore until August. That's when we went back to the festival circuit. So I wasn't convinced, and I'll be honest with you, Jake, still not convinced this film thing is going to work out. So I've stayed very friendly with the toppers who own Quick Stop, just in case.
Just in case.
Go back. Because honestly, I mean, this film thing and the podcast thing, having the TV show we had, my whole life has been wonderful. My professional career especially has been fantastic. Nothing to complain about. Second best job, though, was working at that convenience store, man. Like, easy. And you were like Sam Malone in Cheers. Everybody knew your name and stuff. I remember the thrill of seeing somebody pull up behind me, and then before they come inside, I'd pull their cigarettes down, have them waiting on the counter. So all these people were like me. They were just working people and stuff like that, on their way to jobs they hated. But if you could come in and all of a sudden, like, there was your pack of cigarettes on the counter, they loved me, man. They were like, oh man, right on. They would always, sometimes they'd comment on it. Sometimes they'd just smile and shit like that. But it was always this connection to the people around you. And I always loved working convenience stores because it was forced socialization. People had to talk to you. Like, and if they wanted their stuff, they had to actually interact with you. And I guess I always desperately needed interaction or relevance. Because
I feel like everyone needs a job like that. Whenever I started doing junkets, I wasn't getting paid. I was 18. And I would go off on the weekends. And I was to make money to pay my way through college, I was waiting tables. So on the weekends, I'd go off and, I might see you, I might see George Clooney, I might see Brad Pitt. And then Monday, I'm back with someone snapping their fingers going, hey, more iced tea. And it's kind of a nice sort of humbling, like, hey, don't get ahead of yourself, kid. Kind of everyone needs a job like that.
It very much keeps you grounded. And, for years, people have always been like, you're very, you seem grounded, and you don't seem full. Well, you like your movies, God knows why, but like you seem not very full of yourself and stuff. That, number one, I attribute to New Jersey. That's just baked in. But number two, like in the beginning of my career, even though it like took off like a rocket, I was still like, I don't know if this is going to be the real deal. So I'll make sure I hold on to my secure job.
I've been doing sort of every weekend. I've been trying to find, movie marathons that comfort me, kind of just sort of get me through this. I've done, John Carpenter movies. I did Rick Baker last week, and I did Kevin Smith movies. Your movies are a comfort to me. And as I was watching Mallrats, obviously they're talking about Empire. They're talking about Jedi, because Silent Bob just watched both of them. And then I'm sitting there looking at these characters going, oh, they don't know Boba Fett's alive. Like they have no, like, and because the Boba Fett news dropped that he's going to be a Mandalorian, but what I didn't feel like enough people were talking about was by him being like, he's alive. Like he survived Jedi. Not enough people are talking. What do you think those guys are going to, how would they react to the news that like Boba Fett survived Return of the Jedi?
Brody Bruce for sure would have a diatribe about how dead is dead and how dare they resurrect the past to get $1 out of him and stuff like that. Kevin Smith reacted well because, Boba Fett's demise was always kind of seemed like an afterthought, and like, boy, what a way to waste a great character. You could have gotten so much more, as we've seen from The Mandalorian, a lot of gas in that tank. Yeah. Just the idea of that outfit. Because, when I first saw the ads for the series, I'm like, this is so smart, Boba Fett, the series. And then it sounds like for season 2, they're actually bringing Boba Fett in. So I remember a Marvel comic when I was a kid, Star Wars did it. It was a Marvel Star Wars, and it was just after Return of the Jedi. It's one of the first issues after their Return of the Jedi adaptation. And it was a story about Boba Fett crawling out of the Sarlacc pit and went on an adventure where he didn't remember where he was, who he was, but at the end he winds up going back into the Sarlacc pit. If they give me that or anything close, I'm okay, man. If they tell me that like this guy crawled out, if they want to recreate that for me using footage from Return of the Jedi and baking in new footage, come on. I'm never going to complain about that. That is absolutely thrilling to me. I've seen some people talking about how online they wish they didn't know this. Like a lot of people now know that Boba Fett's coming back. Ahsoka is going to be in it. Yeah. Katie Sackhoff is going to do her role from what was it, Clone Wars or Rebels?
Now Timothy Oliphant's playing someone.
And All Fantastic is in the show as well. So going into Mandalorian, we didn't know much about it, including Baby Yoda.
Right.
So if they're willing to let us know these details now, what must they be hiding? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's a great point.
This stuff, because these are big, juicy details, and they keep everything on lockdown over there.
Yeah.
I feel like this might just be like, look at the pretty light over here, because what they're doing inside of that show is going to be even more spellbinding than when they introduced you to Baby Yoda. So I know everyone. I hope everyone lives through this quarantine. I hope nobody gets COVID-19, but at all costs, we have to protect Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
We have to protect Dave Filoni. And we have to protect Kevin Feige. These are the people who entertain us, either on the Star Wars side or the Marvel side, the most important people out there.
Kevin, I've had the pleasure of chatting with you a couple of times. We share a mutual friend. My best friend is Kevin McCarthy. I was in his wedding, and I know that he is responsible for what I think is one of the greatest scenes I've seen in the last 20 years. So I know we share a mutual love of him. I genuinely love you from the bottom of my heart. You've always been so kind to me. They always say don't meet your heroes, but every time I meet you, you go above and beyond, and I love you and I appreciate you, and I hope you and the family stay safe, man.
Thank you, Jake. You're so damn sweet, man. Always a damn pleasure. If you ever need me, hit me up, man. I'm not going anywhere.
All right, man. Appreciate it. I'm right there with you. Be safe. Thank you so much for this, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Take care, buddy. Good to see you.
Great to see you, Jake. Be well.